Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. A lot of stuff is happening today, and we're going to talk about all of it. Your camera's not on.
Okay, well, that would be helpful, huh? You see what I look like, because God knows.
Yeah, look at that guy.
My TV is on. Better or worse?
It's fine. You don't need to move anything. You don't need to stop.
Fine?
You don't need to change anything. It's fine.
That's way up here, though.
You can sit back more.
Now I'll raise the computer one.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Today on Before Coffee. At least 37 injured after gas explosion sparks blaze in Paris.
Biden hosts India's premier for state visit.
At least 35 people feared dead after dinghy sinks en route to Canary Island.
Search for missing Titanic submersible nears critical 96-hour mark for oxygen supply.
Archaeologists unearthed 4,000-year-old Stonehenge of the Netherlands.
And Justice Samuel Alito took luxury fishing vacation with GOP billionaire who later had cases before the court. Today, on Thursday, June 22nd, 2023 edition of the comprehensive news of planet Earth on Before Coffee.
We're good. I'm home, so everything is not even questionable. On the first news story of our many bad accidents, we've got at least 37 people have been injured, 4 of whom are in critical condition, after a gas explosion sparked a blaze in buildings in the Latin Quarter of Paris. The blast happened in the 5th arrondissement at about 5 p.m. on Wednesday and resulted in several buildings catching fire, local officials said. Police said many of the injured were hit by a force of the blast and by debris. Rescue workers were in the evening still searching for the officials. Police told people to avoid the Val de Grace area near the Pantheon and Luxembourg Gardens after the facade of the building collapsed and the fire appeared to have spread to neighboring buildings. Laurent Nunez, the Paris police chief, said the explosion happened at 277 Rue Saint-Jacques inside a building that included the Paris American Academy, a bilingual school of fashion and design. Local people described one powerful explosion and a smaller one. One man told France Info Public Radio, "It was shocking. It's a disaster." Alexandra, a local pharmacist, said, "We heard an incredibly very loud explosion at around 5 p.m. We felt it. We felt the force of it. We thought this isn't a storm, this is serious. We heard the fire services. I went out to see if I could help, but it was all shut off. There are a large number of fire service and emergency services. It's atrocious. Some reported a huge plume of smoke rising above the neighborhood." Olivier Galzi, a journalist who was nearby at the time of the explosion, told BFM TV that he had seen the facade of a nearby building collapse. Police, fire crew, and ambulance services were at the scene. Some 70 fire trucks and 270 firefighters battled the blaze. The Paris prosecutor said an investigation was open into aggravated involuntary injury, and the inquiry would examine whether the explosion stemmed from suspected violation of safety rules. Prosecutor Laura Becchiao said investigators would seek to determine whether or not there was failure to respect a rule or individual imprudence that led to the explosion. At about 6:45 p.m. local time, police said that the fire was under control and that the rescue workers were continuing. Rue Saint-Jacques leads from the Notre Dame to the Sorbonne University and the Val de Grace Military Hospital, and a few blocks from the popular Jardin de Luxembourg. area is usually packed with tourists and foreign students in the early summer. How was home writing? I thought it was a bomb, Monique Moser, an art historian, told Reuters, adding that many of the windows in her building had been blown out by the blast's shock wave. A neighbor knocked on the door and told me that the fire brigade were asking us to evacuate as quickly as possible. I grabbed my laptop, my phone, and I didn't even think about my medication. Alexis, a 23-year-old student living across the building, told AFP he heard a huge bang and then his windows were blown out. It was super scary. There was smoke and debris and leaves flying, he said. We didn't know if it was a terrorist attack. Terrorism for what? Fashion? I mean, it's a fashion school. That's all I'm saying. I'm tired of your fashion. Okay. Renowned Greek-French filmmaker Kostagavris was among the witnesses at the scene. A huge noise and the house was shaking like this, said the 90-year-old, visibly rattled. We thought, what is going on? We thought it could be the sky. It's not something to laugh about. I'm sorry for laughing, but I don't think it was a terrorist attack. That's all I'm saying. I had a fashion school. That's not a prime target for terrorism, as far as I know.
We would never assume in this world, my friends. We'll never know what people are offended by.
Your story.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. And here's a story from the New York Times. Peter Baker, New York Times. President Biden plans to roll out the red carpet on Thursday morning to formally welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Is it Modi? Let's go with Modi. To the White House for a pomp-filled state visit intended to woo the world's most populous nation at a time of conflict with Russia and rising tension with China. Mr. Biden will celebrate India's rise with a lavish display of friendship marked by marching bands, honor guards, and multi-gun salute on the South Lawn, weather permitting, to be followed by an Oval Office meeting and gala state dinner. Mr. Modi agreed to join Mr. Biden in the East Room to meet with journalists and will also address the joint session of Congress in the afternoon. The visit represents the latest move by geopolitical chessboard as Mr. Biden seeks more allies against increasingly aggressive governments in Moscow and Beijing. India, which remained non-aligned during the Cold War, has refused to join the American-led coalition aiding Ukraine in its war against the Russian forces. And while it shares a certain enmity for China, it is not fully subscribed to Washington's strategy with dealing with Asian China. Mr. Modi started his day on Wednesday in New York, where he joined a group of yoga sessions on the lawn of the United Nations in Manhattan in honor of International Yoga Day, an observation he helped persuade the world body to begin years ago. Afterward, he traveled to Washington and visited National Science Foundation in the Virginia suburb of Alexandria with Jill Biden, the First Lady, to highlight the workforce training programs. In the evening, he arrived at the White House for a less formal welcome and a private dinner with Mr. Biden before public festivities on Thursday. The two leaders plan to announce a long list of initiatives advancing cooperation on telecommunications, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and other areas, according to administration officials. Mr. Modi intends to sign the Artemis Accords, a set of principles governing peaceful exploration of the Moon, Mars, and other celestial bodies, and the two will announce a joint mission to the International Space Station in 2024. Among the most concrete agreements to be announced, officials said, will be a deal between General Electric and the state-owned Hindustan Aeronautics Limited to manufacture in India F414 engines used to power the Boeing FA-18EF Super Hornet. The two sides will announce that they will purchase the long-stall $3 billion purchase of the MQ-9B Predator drones from General Atomics. Ooh. The military hardware sales may help continue to wean India off Russia arms suppliers, but otherwise, officials previewing the visit offered no indications that Mr. Modi would move closer to backing Ukraine in the war. Nor were there any concrete examples of increased cooperation to counter China's assertive moves in the Indo-Pacific region. Administration officials suggested that the meeting was just one step in the evolution of India's stance in the Ukraine war, part of what they characterize as bending the arc of India's engagement. So New Delhi can be helpful, encouraging diplomacy one at a time for negotiation eventually arises. Joshua Bell, the menu, let's go down here. The state dinner will be held in South Lawn in a pavilion draped in green with saffron-colored flowers at every table, the colors of the Indian flag. Lotus blooms, an important symbol of India, will be incorporated throughout the decor. Images of the bald eagle and the peacock, the national birds of the two countries, will be displayed in the backdrop when the leaders offer their traditional toast. The menu will be vegetarian in accordance with Mr. Modi's diet, with optional fish entree. I wonder how fish feel about being categorized as a vegetable. First course will be marinated millet and grilled corn kernel salad with compressed watermelon and avocado sauce, followed by a main course of stuffed portobello mushrooms, creamy saffron and fruits used risotto. A sumac roasted sea bass will be available upon request. A rose and cardamom infused strawberry shortcake will be served for dessert. Joshua Bell, the Grammy-winning violinist, will perform, as will Pen Masala, a South Asian a cappella group founded by students at the University of Pennsylvania and U.S. Marine Corps Chamber Orchestra. After years of strengthening ties, the U.S.-India partnership is deep and expansive. We will jointly tackle global challenges, Dr. Biden told reporters on Wednesday in previewing the event. But our relationship isn't about the government. We're celebrating the families and friendships that span the globe, those who feel the bonds of home in both of our countries. Okay, nice diplomacy story to start the morning. Your story.
Next story, we've got more sad news from the refugees trying to just get out of their country and get somewhere nice where they don't have to worry about dying. Because at least 35 people are feared to have drowned after an inflatable boat carrying up to 60 migrants and refugees sank while en route to the Canary Islands early on Wednesday morning. The Spanish migration NGO Caminando Fronteras, Walking Borders, said 60 people were on the boat, of whom 39 were missing. Another migration NGO, Alarm Phone, put the number of people on board at 59 and said 35 were missing. Spain's Maritime Rescue Service said Moroccan authorities had rescued 24 people, while a Spanish helicopter had recovered one of the two bodies that had been located. The boat got into difficulty and sank, said a spokesperson for the service. A rescue operation was launched by the Moroccan authorities, and they told us that one of their patrol boats rescued 24 people this morning. They asked for our help, and one of our helicopters recovered the body of a miner, which was taken to the Gran Canaria airport. Later on, a container vessel that took part in the search operation located another body. The spokesperson said, "We don't know exactly how many people have disappeared, but there could be as many as 60 people aboard the inflatable boat." She said 51 people had been rescued from another boat that had got into the difficulty 7 miles off the east coast of Lanzarote in the Canary Islands on Wednesday morning. Two migration NGOs accused the Spanish and Moroccan authorities of failing to move quickly enough to help those on board the inflatable boat. Having 60 people, among them 6 women and a baby, waiting for rescue for more than 12 hours on an unstable inflatable boat that could sink at any moment is torture, said Helena Maleno, who leads the Walking Borders. Alarm Phone tweeted, "Shipwreck in the Atlantic. We learned that of the 59 people shipwrecked, only 24 people were intercepted by the Moroccan Navy. At least 35 people are still missing. Why did nobody intervene earlier?" According to Spain's Interior Ministry, 5,914 people have reached the Canaries by boat so far this year, a 31.5% decrease on the same period last year. Over recent years, conflict and instability, the climate crisis, border closures during the COVID pandemic, and increased controls in some North African countries had led to gangs that ferry migrants and refugees between Africa and Europe to make greater use of dangerous Atlantic route to the Canaries. The UN figures show that 29,895 people reached Spain by the sea last year, while 643 died in the attempt. In 2021, 41,979 people arrived by boat, with 418 dying in the attempt. The early summer months are a peak time for migrants and refugees to seek to cross to Spain by sea. A pregnant woman died this week on board a dinghy, and she tried to reach the country. Spain's Coast Guard said on Tuesday that the woman's body was found on a vessel carrying 42 men, 7 women, and 3 children near the Atlantic coast of Lanzarote. On Monday, another trawler spotted a boat near Mogan in Gran Canaria with 53 people on board. 3 of them were in poor health, the Coast Guard said. Meanwhile, more than 500 people are still missing, presumed dead, after a boat crammed with 750 people sank off the southern coast of Greece on the 14th of June. Amid mounting criticism of the way the disaster was handled by the Greek authorities, which were first alerted the vessel about 15 hours before it capsized, 9 people suspected of being behind the smuggling operation appeared before the prosecutor in Kalamata on Tuesday. The suspects, who are all Egyptian and aged 20 to 40 according to state-run TV, categorically denied piloting the doomed ship. In another incident, on Wednesday, 63 people, including 8 women and 8 children, were transferred to Kalamata after being rescued by the Greek Coast Guard. The group had been at sea for 7 days after the yacht they had boarded in Turkey, bound for Italy, ran into engine trouble and stalled. The stricken boat stayed in the Greek waters when efforts to save the group began. In scenes played out last week when survivors of the capsized trawler, who had set out from Libya, were also brought ashore, the migrants were hosted into warehouses in the port city, where the International Red Cross rushed to offer assistance. Yeah, there's been a lot of drama on the social media so far about how people seem to be more interested in the drowning billionaires going to the Titanic than the hundreds of people who sink into the Mediterranean or the Atlantic Sea trying to get somewhere else that they aren't safe in. But I think they might be in their own bubble of news, which only focuses on the things that they're angry about, like how billionaires are the only focus, right? They keep on talking about, oh, everyone wants to talk about the billionaires. Nobody wants to talk about the refugees. You can talk about the refugees. You could do it right now, but instead you're complaining about billionaires on Twitter. Like, the people are helping them. People are saying, oh, the U.S. pulled out the whole Navy to go save these billionaires, when the U.S. and other countries as well have been helping the refugees this whole time, but it's not big headline news because I think the problem with the refugee problem, it's not even a problem, but with the smuggling problem, I would say, is that it happens, like we just saw the numbers, 29,000 people all last year were just going over the sea to get to Spain. That's a lot of people. 4 billionaires deciding to go to that Titanic is not a casual event. So I think that's probably why more people are hyper-focused on the story, because it's, wow, I never thought people would do this. Your story.
Yeah, well, you took my segue away because that was my next story.
Yeah, I know.
So, all right. But I will mention, okay, in defense of the people that are saying, why are we covering this, and we are actually, the amount of assets going for these 5 people is amazing.
Yeah.
I hope you can afford to pay for it if they find it, or if they don't find it, I hope their families can afford to pay for it. Well, that's all I'm saying. And I'm not necessarily agreeing with them that. I'm agreeing that, right, the planes that don't land every day are the ones that make the news, not the ones. So rich people are constantly doing this crap, and these are the ones that got in trouble. You know, that's true too, right? People are always doing these crazy little expenditures of, oh no, there's hidden treasure, there's pirate ships. We just don't hear about it, right? They're down in the Caribbean digging up pirate ships all the time. The search for missing submersible in the this is from an AP story from Patrick Whittle and Holly Raymer. The search for missing submersible on the expedition to view the wreckage of the Titanic near the critical 96-hour mark Thursday, when breathable air is expected to run out, reaching a vital moment in an intense effort to save the 5 people aboard. The Titanic submersible was estimated to have about 4-day supply of breathable air when it launched Sunday morning in the North Atlantic. This puts the deadline to find and rescue the sub at roughly between 6 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time and 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, around now, based on the information the U.S. Coast Guard and company provided expedition have provided. So it is 7 a.m. Eastern Time, so we're right in the middle of that window. Experts emphasize that this is the imprecise estimate. It could be extended if passengers have taken measures to conserve breathable air. And it is not known if they survived since the sub disappeared Sunday morning. Frank Owen, a submarine search and rescue expert, said the oxygen supply figure is a useful target for searchers, but is only based on nominal amount of consumption. Owen said the diver on board of the Titan likely be advising passengers to do anything to reduce your metabolic levels so you can actually extend this. I don't know how you would do that. Broadcasters around the world starting newscasters in our critical hour news of a submersible. The Saudi-owned satellite channel Al Arabia showed the clock in the air counting down the estimate of when the air could possibly run out. Oh, that's sick. Rescuers have rushed more. That's what Saudis would think of that, right? Not the typecast people.
Yeah.
Here's how much air we have. Oh, okay. Down to zero. Now what do we do? We look at another clock. What do we do? Rescuers have rushed more ships and vessels to the site of the disappearance, hoping underwater sounds might be detected or a second straight day might help narrow their search in the urgent international mission. They have expanded the coverage area to thousands of miles, twice the size of Connecticut, in waters 2.5 miles deep. The Titan was reported overdue Sunday afternoon about 438 miles south of St. John's, Newfoundland, as it was on its way to where the iconic ocean liner sank more than a century ago. OceanGate Expeditions, an undersea exploration company that is leading the trip, has been chronicling the Titanic's decay and the underwater ecosystem around it via yearly voyages since 2021. By Thursday morning, hope is running out that anyone on board the vessel will be found alive. Many obstacles remain, from pinpointing the vessel's location to reaching out with rescue equipment to bring it to surfing, assuming it's still intact. And all that has to happen before the passenger's oxygen supply runs out. Captain Jamie Frederick of 1st Coast Guard District said authorities are still holding out hope of saving the 5 passengers on board. This is a search and rescue mission, 100%, he said Wednesday. The area of the North Atlantic where the Titan vanished Sunday is also prone to fog and stormy conditions, making an extremely challenging environment to conduct the search and rescue mission, said Donald Murphy, an oceanographer who served as chief scientist of Coast Guard's International Ice Patrol. Meanwhile, the newly uncovered allegations suggest there have been significant warnings made about the vessel's safety during the submersal's development. Frederick said that while the sounds have been detected, offered a chance of narrow the search, their exact location and source has not yet been determined. We don't know where they are. We don't know what they are, to be frank, he said about the noises. Retired Navy Captain Carl Hartsfield, now the director of the Woods Hole Oceanographic Systems Laboratory, said that sounds have been described as banging noises, but he warned that such crews have put the whole picture together in context and they have to eliminate potential man-made sources other than the Titan. The report was encouraging some experts because submarine crews unable to communicate with the surface are taught to bang on the submersible's hull to be detected by sonar. The U.S. Navy said in a statement Wednesday that it was sending a specialized salvage system that is capable of hoisting large, bulky, and heavy undersea objects such as aircraft to small vessels. The Titan weighs 20,000 pounds, but not much underwater. The U.S. Navy's Flyaway Deep Ocean Salvage is designed to lift up to 60,000 pounds, the Navy said on its website. Lost aboard the vessel are pilot Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate, a British adventurer, 2 members of a Pakistani business family, and a Titanic expert. At least 46 people successfully traveled the OceanGate submersible to the Titanic wreck site in 21 and 22, according to the letters the company filed. So they've been doing this for a while. This is their incident. This is going to probably be 5 bodies eventually. I don't see a lot of hope. It's like finding a needle in a needle stack, or a hay in a haystack, you know, an individual. It's like, where are we going to find it? Where do we even look? So,
yeah,
here we are.
I saw a couple of threads from people who, ran nuclear submarines, who were in submarines for most of their lives. And they're like, yeah, that ship's gone. As soon as they heard the news, We lost a tube in the water. Yeah, those guys are gone. So I was never really hopeful ever since the people who basically lived in submarines all their lives were like, yeah, sorry guys. The probability is so low, you might as well just, take, buried at sea. At this site, buried at sea. So.
We're at that we did all we could stage.
Yeah. At least nobody will say they didn't try. Speaking of burials, archaeologists unearthed a 4,000-year-old burial mound in the Netherlands. Dutch archaeologists have unearthed approximately a 4,000-year-old religious site nicknamed the Stonehenge of the Netherlands. Why don't you just name it something else? That's just weird. Anyways, Stonehenge was not a burial site. Stonehenge was a religious equinox site, so they're not really the same, but which includes a burial mound that served as a solar calendar. So it does have a solar calendar, but it also has dead people. So, it's not the same. The mound, which contained the remains of about 60 men, women, and children, had served several patches through which the sun shone directly on the longest and shortest days of the year. The town of Tiel, where the site was discovered, said on its Facebook page, "What a spectacular archaeological discovery! An archaeologist has found a 4,000-year-old religious sanctuary on an industrial site." It added, "This is the first time a site like this has been discovered in the Netherlands." Digging on the so-called open-air sanctuary started in 2017 in the small village, about 31 miles or 50 kilometers southeast of Utrecht. The results were made public on Wednesday. Study differences in clay composition and color, the scientists located 3 burial mounds on excavations a few miles from the banks of the Wal River. The main mound is about 20 meters or 65 feet in diameter, and its passages are lined up to serve a solar calendar. People use this calendar to determine important moments, including festivals and harvest days, the archaeologist said. NOS, the national broadcaster, and one of the places I actually get most of my news from, for this show, added, "This hill reminded one of the Stonehenge, the well-known mysterious prehistoric monument in Britain, where the phenomenon also occurs." Scientists also discovered 2 smaller mounds. 3 mounds were used as burial sites for about 800 years, the archaeologist said. They made another fascinating discovery, a single glass bead inside a grave, which had, after analysis, was shown to have originated in Mesopotamia, present-day Iraq. This bead traveled a distance of some 5,000 kilometers 4 millennia ago, the chief researcher said. Christian van der Linde. Glass was not made here, so the bead must have been a spectacular item as for people than it was as an unknown material, added Stein Arnoldzussen, a professor at the University of Groningen. He told the NOS the Mesopotamian bead may have been around for a long time before eventually ending up in the area around Tiel, called the Betuwe in Dutch. Things were already being exchanged in those times. The bead may have been above ground for hundreds of years before it reached Tiel, but of course it didn't have to be, Arnoldzussen said. Additionally, I want to say in a quick other article on NOS that there is no plans to make this a tourist spots, because there are some people who are like, "Oh boy, I want to go see this Stonehenge," but currently they're like, "No, we need at least 10 years of study on the archaeological site before we decide to let people walk all over it," which is what people do at Stonehenge. So it'll be a couple decades maybe before anyone can go see the Stonehenge of the Netherlands. But keep your eyes posted in 10 years or 20 years, whoever knows, when they'll open up tourists to go see it, I guess. Great travel opportunity, I'm sure. On to your story.
It's really nice to know that people have been getting stoned for millennia. Yeah. With stones. Stoned that mind. Yeah. In the Supreme Court corruption news, Justice Samuel Alito has been taking fishing trips with a billionaire who had cases before the court. Oh, what could be wrong with that? This is from our favorite new, I don't know if they're even new, ProPublica, who's doing a lot of good reporting on Supreme Court. And this is quite lengthy, and we're going to have to shorten it. In early July 2008, Samuel Alito stood on the riverbank in a remote corner of Alaska. Supreme Court Justice was on a vacation, a luxury fishing lodge that charged more than $1,000 a day, and after catching a king salmon nearly the size of his leg, Alito posed for the picture. To his left, a man stood beaming. Paul Singer, a hedge fund billionaire who has repeatedly asked the Supreme Court to rule in his favor in high-stakes business disputes. Singer was more than a fellow angler. He flew Alito to Alaska in a private jet. Wow, I wish I could do that. Fly a Supreme Court justice away with it on a private jet. It must be nice. If Justice chartered the plane himself, the cost could have exceeded $100,000 or more one way. In the years that followed, this hedge fund came before the court at least 10 times in cases where its role was often covered by the legal press and mainstream media. In 2014, the court agreed to resolve a key issue in a decade-long battle between Singer's hedge fund and the nation of Argentina. Alito did not recuse himself in the case and voted with the 7-1 majority in Singer's favor. The hedge fund was ultimately paid $2.4 billion. That's a sweet return on a $100,000 plane trip, isn't it? Alito did not report the 2008 fishing trip in his annual financial disclosures. By failing to disclose the private jet flight Singer provided, Alito appears to have violated federal law that requires justices to disclose most gifts according to ethics laws experts. Experts said they could not identify an instance of justice ruling on a case after receiving an expensive gift paid for by one of the parties. If you were good friends, what were you doing ruling on his case, said Charles Gay. That's spelled G-E-Y-H, Gay, an international university law professor and leading expert on recusals. If you weren't good friends, what were you doing accepting this? Referring to the flight in the private jet. Justices are almost entirely left to police themselves on ethical issues, with few restrictions on what gifts can accept. When potential conflicts arise, the sole arbiter of whether a justice should step away from the case is the justice, him or herself. ProPublica's investigation sheds new light on how luxury travel has given prominent political donors, including one who has cases before the Supreme Court, intimate access to the most powerful judges in the country. Another wealthy businessman provided expensive vacations to 2 members of the High Court, a ProPublica found on his Alaska trip. Alito stayed on a commercial fishing lodge owned by the businessman who was also a major conservative donor. 3 years before, that same businessman flew Justice Anton Scalia, who died in 2016, on a private jet to Alaska and paid the bill for his stay. Such trips will be unheard of for the vast majority of federal workers who are generally barred from taking even most modest gifts. Leonard Leo, a longtime leader of the Conservative Federalist Society, attending and helping organize the Alaska fishing vacation. Leo invited Singer to join, according to a person familiar with the trip, and asked Singer if he and Alito could fly on the billionaire's jet. Hey, Singer, you happen to know any Supreme Court justices you could fly out there? Oh, yeah, I do. Well, get one on board. Leo had recently planned an important role in his justice's confirmation of the court. Singer and his judge and the lodge owner, I almost said judge owner, I should just say judge owner, were both major donors to Leo's political groups. ProPublica's examination of Leo's and Scalia's travel drew on trip planning emails, Alaska fishing licenses, and interviews with dozens of people, including private jet pilots, fishing guides, former high-level employees, both Singer and lodge owner, and other guests of the trips. ProPublica sent Alito a list of detailed questions last week, and on Tuesday, the Supreme Court's head spokesman told ProPublica that Alito would not be commenting. What a coward. Several hours later, the Wall Street Journal published an op-ed by Alito, the coward, responding to ProPublica's questions about the trip. Alito, the coward, said that when Singer's companies came before the court, the justice was unaware of the billionaire's connection to the cases. You still have to divulge it, moron! He said he recalled speaking of Singer no more than a handful of occasions, and they never discussed Singer's business issues before the court. Hey, dude, it's a quid pro quo. You don't have to discuss it. Alito said that he was invited to fly in Singer's plane shortly before the trip, that the seat would have otherwise been vacant. He defended his failure to report the trip in public, writing that the justice's commonly interpreted disclosure requirements did not include accommodations and transportation of social events. Nonsense. His logic. Here's his logic. That wasn't improper because that plane was taking off anyway with an empty seat, and me being on that seat did not cause him any financial distress. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. That's like saying, I show up at the airport and say, hey, you got an empty airplane seat on that airplane. It's going to take off without me. Just throw me on there at no cost, just to be nice to me. They're not going to do it, man.
What a friend. What a great friend, you know?
Isn't Delta Airlines wonderful? They let me take that seat for free, even though everybody else had to pay for a seat. Doesn't happen that way, dude. They want something for that seat, whether you think it was free or not. This spring, ProPublica reported that Justice Clara Thomas received decades of luxury travel from Dallas real estate magnate Harlan Crow. Crow also gave money in an undisclosed real estate deal and paid for his mom to live in a house free. Bought his mom's house, and basically we have three, Neil Gorsuch also, and we also have Roberts, the Supreme Court, what do you call him? The head guy. Not disclosing gifts. Meanwhile, the three female members of the Supreme Court are disclosing every free meal they ever get at every turn. And these guys are like, free business trips. Who needs to know about that? Just because they got business for the Supreme Court. Your story. I could go on for an hour and a half.
Yeah. Its own personal rant there.
See, it doesn't cost any money.
Yeah. In more archaeological news, French cave markings said to be the oldest known engravings by the Neanderthals. This is from Ian Sample, the science editor at The Guardian. Hundreds of faint stripes, dots, and wavy lines that adorn a cave wall in central France are the oldest known engravings made by Neanderthals, according to scientists who analyzed the ancient markings. The patterns, called finger flutings, appeared on sections of the longest and most even wall of the cave in La Roche-Cotard, in the Loire Valley. They were created more than 57,000 years ago, before modern humans arrived in the region, the researchers say. These drawings have been applied or structured and were not made quickly or without prior thought, said Jean-Claude Marquette, an archaeologist at the University of Tours. Some of the panels were so rich in markings they might be the product of collaborations, he added. The cave was discovered in 1846 when quarrying work on the bank of the Loire revealed a hitherto buried entrance. Right, where was I? The cave was discovered in 1846 when quarrying work in the bank of the Loire revealed a hitherto buried entrance. Limited excavations in 1912 recovered animal bones and Neanderthal stone tools from the site. But it took more extensive digging in the 1970s and from 2008 onwards to reveal the full extent of the cave. Today, the cave has 4 main connecting chambers that reach 33 meters deep in the riverbank. Neanderthals appear to have lived in the first chamber and in front of the cave entrance, where the tools and the bones were found. The engravings were spotted in the cave's 3rd chamber, where a tiny brown film covers much of the crumbly limestone wall. The wall is very fragile, said Marquette. All you have to do is touch it and to leave a mark. Analysis of the sediments that once blocked the entrance revealed that the cave was effectively sealed from the outside for at least 50,000 years ago. Along with the tools unearthed at the site, this suggests that the markings could only have been made by Neanderthals who occupied Europe long before Homo sapiens reached there about 42,000 years ago. Nearly all the markings appear to have been made by sweeping fingers across the soft brown film, or pressing fingers into the height that could be reached by adults or tall teenagers. Patterns are grouped into 8 separate panels, according to the study in Post 1. One panel, there are curved lines that meet at a point, others bear dozens of dots, parallel stripes, and a fan-like pattern. Previous evidence for Neanderthal engravings is patchy and largely confined to marked scratches on bones, dating back 40,000 to 50,000 years ago. Paul Petit, the professor of Paleolithic archaeology at Durham University, who was not involved in the research, said the researchers presented a convincing case that could be made from a site disturbed by early excavations that the animal and human marks on the walls were left long before the arrival of our own species in Europe. Given that the cave's archaeology is exclusively indicated of Neanderthals with no evidence of subsequent Upper Paleolithic occupation, presumably because that cave was by this time inaccessible, this provides strong indirect cumulative evidence that the Neanderthals produced the finger markings, he added. What the markings are meant to convey may forever remain a mystery. It's important to know that these ancient Neanderthal tracks, because they're part of the territory and part of the past of our history, said Marquette, we'll never know what they mean. We are not the Neanderthals, even we have 2 or 4% of their genes. On to this day in history.
Interesting. Okay, this day in history, we have 168 BC. The Romans defeated the Macedonians under King Perseus at the Battle of Pydna, which marked the end of the Macedonian monarchy and allowed Rome's annexation of Macedonia, which famously was the ruling of Alexander the Great. 1633. You jump ahead in history. Accused of heresy by the Inquisition, Galileo was forced to recant his support of the Copernican system, which held that the sun was the center of the solar system. Once again, religion telling people, hey, your science is bullshit. We're going to lock you in a cell. 1815, Napoleon, on this day, abdicated as French emperor for the second time, and the last time, In 1887, English biologist and philosopher Julian Huxley, whose great influence in modern development of embryology, was born in London. I like how they show these pictures of really old people and they announce that they were born and you try to picture them as a baby. American motion picture director, 1906, Billy Wilder was born in Sucha, Austria, is now part of Poland. In 1910, Catherine Dunham, African-American dancer, choreographer, and anthropologist noted for innovative interpretations of primitive, ritualistic, and ethnic dances, was born. In 1940, with the invading German force Esdor in mid-June 1940, the French government, under the leadership of Marshal Philippe Pétain, signed an armistice with Germany, thereby creating Vichy France, which was a Nazi form of France. Germany violated the German 1941. Germany violated the German-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact of 1939 and attacked the Soviet Union during World War II. So 1 year later, after the Vichy French established, the Germans backstabbed the Russians. In 1955, the animated musical Lady and the Tramp was released in U.S. theaters. In 1969, in Cleveland, the severely polluted Cuyahoga River caught on fire when an oil slick on the surface ignited. Although it was not the first fire in the river, the incident generated national attention and led to anti-pollution members to substantially improve the river's condition. When your river is on fire, you live in a kind of a crappy place. Let's say. In 1978, Charon, the largest moon of Pluto, was discovered. In 1986, Argentine football soccer player Diego Maradona scored his memorable Hand of God goal. The ball struck his hand, but the referee mistakenly thought it hit his head. To help Argentina defeat England in the World Cup. So England's probably still not over that. In 2008, American comedian George Carlin, American comedian and philosopher, died at the age of 71. Sad day. The death of George Carlin. In 1949, June 2nd, Meryl Streep was born. Actress Meryl Streep. Other famous birthdays today. 1971, Kurt Warner, American football player. 1964, Dan Brown, American author. 1949, Elizabeth Warren, American senator. And in 1936, Chris Christopherson was born on this day. And what day is it? As we get to, didn't we cover it was something day today, right? National Chocolate Eclair Day. There we are. It's that was yesterday. National Martini Giveaway Day was yesterday, but I guess it's again today. National Martini Giveaway Day. It's National Kissing Day today. All right,
Yay.
so spread them diseases. National HVAC Tech Day. So call your air conditioner guy and give him a kiss. National Onion Rings Day. Don't kiss anybody after you've eaten onion rings. And it's World Rainforest Day, and you probably got an appointment to go to, so we'll get off.
All
That's
right,
it.
this has been Allison here from the Netherlands, hoping that nobody else decides to get on a boat this year. Let's just cancel the ocean today. Let's just avoid the ocean. We're good. We've seen enough of it. Let's stay on land this year. And we will see you tomorrow for some more end of the week news.
This is Roger from Canada, where there's a swimming beach out here, and kids are just jumping in the water. So not avoiding the water, but I'm by a lake. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. And this is Roger saying goodbye for the comprehensive news of planet Earth on Before Coffee.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.